Hi, I'm Tim and I'm back in the kitchen. I'm going to show you 3 of my favorite ways to cook one of my favorite weeknight dinners, fresh salmon. Cooking any type of seafood can be intimidating, and for some reason salmon seems to feel particularly tricky, but it doesn't have to be. It is a great weeknight meal because it cooks up quickly and it's actually not as finicky as you think. So here's what I'm going to do. Pan-seared, oven roasted, and air fried. They're all great. It just depends on the kind of flavor you're looking for and really the kind of day you're having. So let's get started. Okay, you don't have to buy a whole side of salmon. You can get fillets, but I brought a whole side just because I think it's kind of helpful for you to know what you're looking for and to understand that there are different parts of salmon. So on the thicker side here, this is the loin and the belly, and this is gonna have, I think, the best flavor compared to this other side, which is the tail. Tail is kind of like the dark meat of fish. It's like waving in the ocean, so it gets kind of muscular, and it doesn't have as good of a flavor when you cook it. You can get a tail and maybe make some like poke bowls or something out of it. It's pretty good, but I'm gonna focus on this for seared and roasted salmon. It's gonna be great. So I'm gonna cut these into about 4 or 5 ounce pieces. I think that's plenty for a weeknight meal, and salmon is so rich, you really don't need a ton of it. So here's what I'm gonna do. I showed you this trick in my grilling video. It is a basically dry brine. I was working in restaurants, we'd have these vats of salty water all over our walk-in refrigerators, and it just took up tons of space. Somebody figured out you don't need to put it in water, you can just put the salt and sugar right on the salmon. They're geniuses. So this is 4-to-1 salt and sugar basically. I've got like a 1/4 cup of salt here, tablespoon of sugar. What's gonna happen is that the fish is gonna firm up. It's going to be a little bit more dense. It's not gonna be as squishy whenever you put it in the pan. And it'll keep that white part of the salmon that kind of comes out when you're cooking it. It's called albumin. It'll keep that from coming out. It'll just look nicer. Okay, so these are salted all over. Don't worry, I'm gonna rinse all of this off. I'm gonna let it sit in the fridge for like 10 minutes. It's gonna be great. Okay, 10 minutes and you can visually, you can see it's different, right? So now I'm going to rinse off this salmon in ice water and preheat my cast iron skillet. We're multitasking, it's good. Whenever I'm rinsing salmon off, I don't like doing it just over the sink for a couple of reasons. One, the water, whenever you're pouring it right out of the faucet, can be pretty intense and kind of bruise the salmon here. The second reason is that when that water is splashing off of the salmon, you've got a bunch of raw salmon water all over your kitchen, and that's not great. So I like to rinse off proteins in a bowl of water instead. Gotta open my drawer with a bunch of salmon hands. It's no good. Here we are. Not really gonna worry too much. I'm just gonna pat these dry. Good tip, don't let salmon just sit on a paper towel, the flesh side down, because it can stick. I know for a fact it does that. Just kind of dry them off. Ready to go. Got about a tablespoon of oil. I've preheated my cast iron skillet on kind of a medium-low heat, not too hot, because cast iron, it takes a little bit of time to heat up. I'm gonna preheat this for like 5-6 minutes, but once it's hot, it's hot. So you don't need to crank the temperature up to medium-high with cast iron because it's really hard to cool it back down. All right, we're hot. So when putting salmon into a pan, you don't want to like flop it down in there, you've got hot oil. Kind of put it away from you, like so, not like this. Does that make any sense? You just don't want to splash the oil towards your body because it's hot. Yeah, it's good. The great thing about searing salmon in a cast iron skillet is the skin gets super crispy. And if you've never tried salmon skin, you really should. It is so good. Whenever you first put the salmon into the pan, the skin is gonna wanna stick to the pan. The trick is to leave it alone. Don't mess with it, and then once the skin is nice and crispy, it comes right off. You want to cook salmon pretty much like 80-90% of the way there on the skin side. Then, just right at the very end, we'll flip it over for just a second. This part of cooking salmon takes like 5-6 minutes, so you really don't want to walk away and try to get some other things done. Just stay by the skillet and you can kind of watch the salmon go from this bright orange to this opaque color, and that's when you know it's ready. So you can see the kind of opaque color climbing up the salmon. The great thing about cooking on a skillet is that you can watch the salmon cook. You don't have to guess that much. So then I'm just gonna flip it over for just a second and finish cooking on the other side. Oh, guys, you can like hear it crackle. So nice. So I cook it on this side for maybe a minute. Not very long at all, because I really don't want a ton of browning on that side since I've got the skin that's so crispy. So I've made a hollandaise in the blender. It's really simple, but to mix it up a little bit, I've added some fresh dill and chives, and it is so good. Because I spent so much time kind of making sure I have this beautiful crispy skin, I'm gonna serve it skin side up so everyone can see how beautiful that is. So good. So simple. Because the salmon is the star of the show, I'm serving this with really simple rice, steamed broccoli, and that fantastic hollandaise sauce. It is a great weeknight meal because it cooks up so fast. Now I love how quickly salmon cooks in a cast iron skillet, but the one downside is that it's active cooking, right? You gotta be there. And sometimes you just can't spend your whole night in a kitchen. You got other things to take care of. Well, that's when oven roasted salmon is great. So this recipe for baked pesto salmon is perfect. You can cook your main and your side dish all at once. Takes a little longer than the skillet, but you got nothing to worry about. It's really hands off. This is just a combination of pesto and lemon juice. Just gonna spoon this onto the salmon. I like this recipe because I inevitably want some like pesto pasta one night of the week, but I never use all the pesto that I made. This is a great way to use up that leftover pesto. Okay, this is just a mixture of zucchini, squash, red onion, and garlic. I just seasoned it with a little salt, really simple, and I'll just scatter it around the tray, and it'll cook all together. I like having a little zucchini and squash in the center. It's kind of cute, you know? It's nice. Because this recipe is so hands-off, and I don't want to go peeking into the oven every 5 minutes, I'm going to use a thermometer, and I'm going to cook it to 140 degrees, and that'll be like a medium well for the salmon. Just put it into the thickest part. If you check this out, you can kind of figure out what the center of your salmon is by going like this, and then making your fingers right at the edge. And when you poke it in, you know it's in the middle. Easy. Okay. All right. That'll be in the oven for 15-20 minutes, but I can just check the thermometer, make sure it's at 140, and so I don't have to worry about it. And that's it. So simple. Now, oven roasted salmon, it's not gonna get that crispy skin that we got with the cast iron, so I didn't even serve the skin with the salmon. In order to take it off, just slide the spatula in between the fish and the skin, and there you have it. Skin stays on the tray. You've got the salmon right here. Man, this is a great weeknight meal. Completely hands off, nothing to fuss over, nothing to worry about. Perfect for when you got a lot on your plate. Now, air fried salmon, it's the best of both worlds. Like searing, it's done really fast, but like oven roasted salmon, it's completely hands off. Plus, there's no preheating. So it's really simple to do. I'm gonna brush the salmon with some oil, then sprinkling on one of the rubs that I really like. This is garlic and herb, but you can use anything you like. So I'm not gonna do anything else to this salmon. I'm not gonna be super fussy about it. I wanna make sure there's plenty of rub. I'm gonna brush this tray just a little bit, which will help make the salmon come off easier. Then pop this into the top rack. Now on the other tray, I've got some green beans here that I have just seasoned with a little salt and olive oil. And I'll put these on the middle rack. Halfway through cooking, I'm gonna rotate these anyway, so it really doesn't matter what position you put these in. Then I'll put it on the roast setting, set the time for 12 minutes, and that's it. So, there you have it. 3 different simple ways to cook salmon: seared, oven roasted, and air fried. Any method you choose is a fast, easy, and unfussy way to cook a delicious weeknight meal, or whenever it sounds good. And hopefully we've removed a bit of the intimidation factor surrounding salmon. So if you liked this and you want to see more, check out our other In the Kitchen videos. Thanks for watching.